Well, welcome to Streaming Star Wars, another live edition talking about all kinds of great Star Wars stuff. Chris, how are you doing, buddy?
Oh, I'm doing good, my friend. How you doing, Mr. Fletzer? How you feeling, my friend?
Well, thank you for asking. I haven't been feeling great. I don't know what
Mhm.
something's going on with my sound here. I'm just gonna turn off. Hold on. Hold on. That is weird. Okay, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, that was weird. I had like sound coming like from the walls and from the floor and the no, I don't know what was going on. To answer your question, Chris, I was not feeling great earlier this week. I wasn't feeling great today, but you know what? I'm feeling good now because here we are talking Star Wars. We're hanging out and we're going to talk about there was so much Star Wars news this week. And we're going to talk about Willow too, because I
Mhm.
know you got some thoughts on Willow.
Mhm.
And I am really enjoying Willow, and I want to get into some of your thoughts on that as well.
Absolutely.
Before we get started, let me just do some of the important housekeeping. Couple things. First of all, we're doing things a little bit differently. If you're hanging out with us and you want to join the live conversation, we're not going to wait till the end to take your calls. We'll take them throughout the show. So you'll see the link up on top. It's bit.ly/ATGcast. Join us, become a part of the conversation. We want to hear what you have to say about anything. Like we said, tons of Star Wars news this week. It was strange. It was quiet for so long. We just were dealing with Andor and watching whatever was coming on, and now there's a ton of interesting things. Plus, we want to get your thoughts on Willow. Also, if you are considering becoming an ATG Cast patron, please feel free to do so. Head on over to patreon.com/ATGcast, and you can be part of our live shows when we record the Thursday interview shows. For example, this Thursday, I have Jordan Hembrow coming up, who was Your Star Wars Story, the toys that built America. Pretty interesting, very fun guy. Had a lot of fun with that. But make sure to join us there. And if you're looking for merch, if you want your shirt that says shill, if you want to
Yes.
get a streaming server shirt, it's an ATG Cast shirt, whatever you want, head on over to atgcast.com and hit the merchandise button. And the merch is on sale still right now. It's on sale, I think maybe throughout the weekend for the holidays. I don't know, but if you want something, go over there. Now would be a good time to do it. Also, if you call in tonight, um, Chris, I want to make sure that anybody who calls in gets one of these, which is
Yes.
a shill keychain. Tell your friends, tell your family that you too are a shill. If they're going to call you a shill online, you might as well get the keychain for it.
Oh,
And
I just got a notification. My Disney
did your
check
check
just
clear?
dropped in
Yeah,
my account.
nice,
Yes.
very good.
I
Yeah.
love Disney Direct Deposit. It's fantastic.
It's fast, it's easy, and all you have to do is say that you love shows that are generally horrible. That's right, right? We're
It's
supposed to stick up for shows that nobody likes. Is that
it's so easy.
yeah, it's so easy. Even a podcaster can do it. Um, so Chris, what's going on in your world? What was your big Star Wars excitement this week? I know that was there any big comic drops this week?
This week was Hidden Empire number 2,
Oh,
which was it's the last chapter. It's 6 or 7 issue run, or I think it's no, I think it's 5 issue run, and it's the last chapter in Charles Soule's Crimson Dawn trilogy.
aha.
So we learn a little bit. Of course, we learn a little bit more. We see just how well equipped Kira is
Hmm.
for the Empire, because they had her on the ropes for a minute, and she's still kind of on the ropes, but she's not as bad off as people thought she was. I don't want to spoil too much because I want people to go out there and buy those comics and love these stories so they can keep going. Um, and Prince Zizor is canon, sir.
I love that.
He is canon. So, and that was actually brought up in you see him in the previous issue, but I think that's fantastic that they're they're bringing him in. You know, they've already brought Black Sun in and the Feline, but to
Yep.
bring him in and just keep expanding this universe and you know, this big bucket of characters that we have, I love it.
Yeah, it's and Shizor, of course, was I think they're going to start bringing in some more of that
Yeah,
Shadows of the Empire stuff. I think we will live to see the day where Dash Rendar is canon at some point. I don't know how, I don't know when, but I think it'll happen.
they can do it.
So, um, super cool, man. So cool. So, as I was saying before, there was a ton of Star Wars news this week, and why don't we just kind of just jump right into it? And let's first talk about, and again, we have the lines open. If you want to join the conversation, you want to give us your opinion, your thoughts on anything, please feel free to do so. Jump right in. And so hang on one second. My dad needs the link. I'm sorry, but he's one of our number one fans here. So I'll see what I can do to try to get him that. But so Chris, we heard of this week, and I know we're not a DC show. I know we're not a superhero show,
Mhm.
but we are always looking at all the influences on the Star Wars universe. And of course, we know that Patty Jenkins was set up to bring us Rogue Squadron. What was that?
Yeah.
Coming up on like almost 3 years ago. Was it 3 years?
I think like 2 or 3 years. Yeah, because everything took a break, you know, when 2020 happened. But yeah, I think it was probably like 2 3 years.
Yeah,
Sure.
and she was supposed to be bringing us a brand new movie
Yeah.
called Rogue Squadron, and then she fell off the planet. Why do you think that happened? And did you catch any of the news about Patty Jenkins this week in Wonder Woman 3?
I did, and I think m- I- what may have hurt her as far as Rogue Squadron. I don't know. Of course, I'm not behind the scenes. I'm not Grace
Sure.
Randolph.
Yep.
But
Thank God for that.
she's in all the meetings. Um,
And if
uh,
she's not, she's pretending to be. And
yeah, she's writing her own saga.
certainly missing all the Easter eggs in Andor, but that's yeah, that's a dangerous road. But go ahead.
Uh,
I'm so sorry.
I think maybe, and and it's probably the case why the Davids didn't have their trilogy like they were supposed to from Game of Thrones
Yep.
is Wonder Woman 84.
Yeah.
Just like season 8 of Game of Thrones is probably like they're like let's not bring them in. Let's change all that. So I think maybe that may have had something to do with it. I kind of, sort of, halfway maybe enjoy Wonder Woman 84, but just I'm a DC guy, so
Yeah.
you know, I tend to love it. But you know, when something's a stinker, I know it's
Yeah, I what I think, and I don't think you're wrong. I think part of it is because I think Wonder Woman 84 was a bit of a, I mean, the way I described it is 50% of it was pretty good and 50% of it was
dog shit.
what am I watching at? Yeah,
Yeah.
what am I seeing here? What's going on? And I think one of the things that came out in the conversation or in the news this week about why Wonder Woman 3 isn't happening is because Patty Jenkins walked out because she refused to take notes and studio input.
Yeah.
And I think, I look, we are shills here, and we do generally. I mean, in all honesty, shill or otherwise, I do believe Kathleen Kennedy is making great decisions for Star Wars. I think,
Yeah.
as a producer or as a studio executive, she's putting the right people in place. She's putting
Absolutely.
Filoni, Favreau in place. She's giving Tony Gilroy a lot of free reign.
Yeah.
But she gets actively involved, and especially when something like Wonder Woman 84 kind of goes off the rails a little bit,
Yeah.
I'm sure she wanted to have some notes. And my sense is Patty Jenkins was probably, if it's anything like her Wonder Woman 3 situation, wasn't going to have it. And
Yeah.
that means Kathleen wasn't going to have it. And
Yeah.
so I kind of feel like that's probably where that relationship went.
Mhm. And
Do-
one of the things with Wonder Woman 3 was that it was a lot from reports and things like that you know that we get to hear about, that it was a lot like 84.
Mm.
And the studio was like, no, let's not do that. And especially with James Gunn, and I keep forgetting the other suit's name, who's going to be heading the DC Studios thing.
Yep.
I'm pretty sure it didn't jive with whatever they have going on, because I'm expecting some great things if they're going the way I think they're going, where it culminates with Kingdom Come, which is it was a big, it was a it was an amazing story within the DC universe. Like, it was kind of like an Elseworlds kind of thing, but it was still it was an amazing, amazing story. And if things go in that direction, probably this, if they're going to do another Wonder Woman 84 style flick for that,
Yeah.
it's not going to go well.
Yeah. And do you think again, at the risk of becoming a DC show for a couple minutes, do you think the Zack Snyder version of the universe is going to be sort of put to rest and rebooted, or do you
There's
think
probably going to be some kind of soft reboot, especially with this Flashpoint movie that's coming out.
Yeah.
They'll do Flashpoints. The first Flashpoint was done to reset the DC universe in the comics, and they've done other stuff with Flashpoint style stories or type stories ever since, just to kind of shift things around a little bit to keep things fresh. So I think they are, and I'm cool with it, because just like when it comes to the expanded universe, where I was like, when they nixed that, when Disney nixed that for whatever's going to be for this canon, I was like, cool. It's not like that other stuff's going anywhere. And I wasn't a huge fan of a lot of the EU stuff anyway, but there was some stuff that I did like, but it's still there. Thankfully Chewie's not dead now. But yeah. I mean, as much as I love the Justice League movie, and Man of Steel to me is a masterpiece.
Yep.
It's still there. I still have it. I still got the Blu-ray, all that stuff. So it's not like it just disappears.
Yeah.
Thanos snap. But it's still there. So it could be an Elseworlds kind of thing. That's the beauty with DC, is that they really perfected the multiverse. Like, before Marvel and all them all did it, DC perfected the multiverse. So
yep.
I'm very happy to see what James Gunn and them come up with, because Peacemaker is amazing.
Peacemaker is such a great show.
So good. So
and, it's one of those things, and ideally next week we're going to try to do a 2022 year in review from a Star Wars perspective. But when you think back on 2022, just from an entertainment perspective, people forget. I mean, there was such a great fall season of content this year. We forget that Peacemaker was earlier this year, and just such that was that was one of the few non-Star Wars shows that I would wake up early to watch, just to make sure I caught it before before everything else got out. It was just such a great show. So psyched about that. Well, good. Yeah. And again, I think that that's one of the reasons why Rogue Squadron is delayed, backburnered, destroyed, put out to pasture, whatever. Is because I think Patty Jenkins, maybe she's difficult to work with. Maybe she's, or maybe she just has such strong ideas. Doesn't necessarily mean she's difficult to work with.
Right.
Probably difficult to work with. But if that's the case, I mean, Kathleen Kennedy she's been successful because she's been so strong with her opinions on what she thinks things should be, and that's just not going to work. So, is what it is, I suppose.
Yeah.
So hey, if you're watching us, the lines are open. You want to join the conversation? Jump in at any time. Hit go on up to bit.ly/ATGcast. Up there, we'll bring you in. We'll bring in for any points of the conversation. We're just going to be talking news, and we're going to get to some thoughts on Willow, because Chris and I have really been digging that show. And hey, since Mr. Milky is he's out dancing tonight, he's wearing a tuxedo, he's being all fancy with his wife, and come on, Star Wars, man. So
whatever, good husband.
And he's a bit behind on Willow, so tonight's a good night for us to have some fun with that.
Yeah.
But we're going to take a real quick break, and then when we come back, we want to talk about some of the news of the week from Jedi Survivor. We got the new Bad Batch trailer, and we got some leaked pictures from the upcoming Acolyte series. But we'll take a look at that in just a minute.
It's that time of year again, Life Day, and all those other holidays. And that also means it's gift-giving season. What better way to say happy holidays than with a colorful t-shirt emblazoned with my face? Nothing says I love you like giving a mug that reminds someone that they're one of your weird space friends. Proudly slap stickers on your personal belongings that declare that yes, you are a shill. With more than 30 designs, all the sizes and colors, you are sure to find something that'll make you whip out your credit card and buy something you'll have to explain to whoever's doing your laundry these days. Check back regularly for new designs, and if you see something you like, make sure to snag it before our Disney overlords remove it for borderline copyright infringement. Head on over to atgcast.com today and click the merchandise button. That's atgcast.com, and happy Life Day to those who celebrate.
Yes. Well, hey, we miss Life Day. I don't think we did a big Life Day celebration
Mm.
here, but uh,
I celebrate.
you do.
I
Do
celebrate.
you bring out the little life ball, the orb that
That's
glows?
right. Get my red robe and everything. Put on a
You-
whole bunch of makeup and look spacey and sing that song that Carrie Fisher sang, just to keep in the spirit.
Yeah, you got to. You have to, right? It's in a world that's filled with strife and challenge. Life. I don't know where I'm going with this, Chris. I'm going to stop before it gets a little weird. Listen, please dial in if you want to join us. You can, and then stick around because we'll give you a shill keychain. And if nobody dials in, I got a whole bag that I'm just gonna have to give to strangers on the street. And honestly, I don't think that's going to go well. So, Chris, there was a bunch of news this
Yeah.
week. We got 2 trailers. Why don't we start with that? 2
Mhm.
official trailers. We got I think it was on Wednesday, we got Bad Batch. Tuesday or
Yeah.
Wednesday, we got Bad Batch season 2 trailer.
Yeah.
And we got the Jedi Survivor trailer from the video game awards on Thursday night.
Yeah.
Which one do you want to start with?
Let's start with Bad Batch, and then we'll go into Jedi Survivor.
Awesome. So so this trailer seemed to have variations on some of the content we've seen before, but
Mhm.
what is it from this trailer that kind of stood out to you?
Um, I don't know how much time has passed between then, or how much training they've given to Omega, but she's really starting to fill out as being like a really active part of this team,
Yep.
and I love that. Um, I love that Wanda Sykes is now a part of Star Wars. I think that's amazing. So I'm real hyped to see what they do with her character. Um, uh, I'm looking forward to. Oh, I'm sorry.
I was just gonna say we have Wanda Sykes and Rhea Perlman, 2 of the
Together.
most like distinctive, somewhat annoying yet incredibly entertaining voices.
Yes.
And they're together. And what was cool about the Wanda Sykes character, it almost seems like she's come in and taken over Rhea Perlman's little shop there.
Operation.
I'm not sure.
Maybe.
Yeah.
Maybe, or they're tag teaming it or something. But I can't wait to see it. This is going to be animated version of getting Forrest Whitaker and Stellan Skarsgård in scenes together, and I'm so hyped for it.
It was yeah. And I wonder, like, again, the thing to keep in mind, I think, with all Star Wars content is they never give us more than the very early parts.
Mhm.
We get those crab creatures. We get, and to your point about Omega, I mean, yeah, she's no longer sort of timid and hiding behind them. She's like running out in front, using her bowcaster,
Yeah.
taking them down, jumping over them. But she still, I think, is trying to find her place. That was what I got from it, with the one line that they gave us where she said, you guys have risked everything for me, and I guess it was might have been Echo, I think, who says we made the right choice or something.
Yeah.
And we got Cody in this
Hmm.
trailer, and he's hanging with Crosshair. What did you make of that?
This crotchety curmudgeon clone. I'm hoping that there's more growth with his character. Hopefully, because I think even Cody seems to have grown a little bit. One thing I do like is that how the Empire is, and they kind of strip you of individuality and vibrant colors. And I
Yeah.
see that his clone armor now is stripped of the orange or the yellow.
Oh, right.
Orange.
Yep.
Yeah, the orange. Yeah, it's all gray, but it's still the same outfit. So I think that's dope. Uh I I hope that if this is Cody's swan song, which I think that he and Rex are going to meet up again,
Hmm.
they've got to. They've got to. Um, I think this may be something that helps. Cody may be Crosshair's. What was that kid's name again? The manifest Nemec.
Nemec.
You
Yeah.
know, like something to help him. Get to the next level. So I'm really excited to see what they do there. What's also is cool is that we get a bunch of 2-parters and a bunch of I think there's 3 weeks spread out throughout the thing where we're going to get 2 episodes at a time, and
Yes.
I think that's awesome.
Yeah, I think if I remember correctly, there were 16 episodes on the first week. We're going to get
Mhm.
2. In the middle, we're gonna get 2, and then we end with 2, which is a really cool way to go. And 16 episodes, that's a pretty hefty docket of content.
Mm-hmm.
Interesting too is there's a full month, I believe, of both um Mandalorian season 3 and Bad Batch kind of running side by side.
This is a world I've been wanting to live in.
Do you think that'll have an I mean, it's interesting because there was the Andor ratings kerfuffle, which is still just such a non-story because there's really no way to measure anything that's acceptable yet at this point.
Yeah.
Do you think what kind of an impact do you think it's going to have? I worry that I know you laugh every time I say too much Star Wars, but we're going to be 3/4 of the way, 2/3 of the way through Bad Batch, and then the big one, Mandalorian season 3, is going to kick off. How do you think that's going to impact it?
Impact viewership.
Yeah.
Luckily, this isn't back when we were kids, where if you didn't see it
Right.
when it dropped, you're not going to see it like before VCRs.
Right.
So I think it'll be fine. And plus, like as opposed to Andor, which is it's damn near amazing, at least 99% perfect, or maybe just all the way perfect. This is more of the warm blanket Star Wars that we know, and the swashbuckling, it's got the fantasy aspect and the adventure and everything. So I think viewership and all that will be fine for both. Well, of course for Mando, but it'll be fine for Bad Batch as well.
My biggest concern is I'm gonna now have to get up even earlier because Twitter has no chill.
None.
And anything of interest that hits on either show is going to be out in the open immediately. And so
and that is, I hate that, because they're just like with the comics.
Yeah.
There are a couple of YouTube channels out there that will put out every page of the comic that came out that week and think they're doing a service when they're really just they're keeping people from buying the book, so that keep that medium going.
Right.
There are people who will just spoil every bit of what happens in Mando or Bad Batch immediately.
Yep.
And if you go on there, like, just check something real quick or check your DMs, you're going to see something and it's going to make you upset.
Yep.
So yeah, I just, whereas I should anyway, forsake Twitter, until I've had a chance to see any of the episodes.
Yeah. I'm very curious from how I think this is sort of will be an interesting sort of turning point for my son, because he's a huge Mandalorian fan, but he's an even bigger animation fan. And so I wonder which one he's going to prioritize. That'll be interesting to see. So, but yeah, I'm excited for Bad Batch. It's funny. I didn't realize how much I missed it until I saw the trailer again. And I do have to say, Bad Batch, I think we talked a little bit about this a couple weeks ago. Bad Batch season 1 did feel like it had its quieter episodes. I hate to say filler, because as we know, Filoni never, anything that's happened, even if it was a quiet episode, it's going to come back.
Yeah.
But you have to think about even Rebels, which, the first couple episodes of Rebels were just stellar, like film quality storytelling. Yeah. But season 1 did slow up a little bit until it got to the end. And so, and even, Clone Wars, I think, might be even an even better example, where I don't think Clone Wars knew what it wanted to be until it started going. So hopefully Bad Batch
season 3 probably somewhere right in there.
Yeah. So I'm hoping Bad Batch will pick it up and kick in full gear. All right. So that's Bad Batch. I'm excited about that. If you have any comments or thoughts on Bad Batch, please feel free to dial in, be part of the show with us, hang out with us tonight. The second trailer we got just yesterday at the Video Game Awards for Jedi Survivor, and it's really interesting because my son, who is my Star Wars barometer right now, is a 10-year-old. he's been playing every game he can find, and he was like, "Dad, what's a good game that's got a good story?" And I was like, how about Jedi Fallen Order? He's like, "Oh, all right, I'll try it." And he got so into it.
Yeah.
And I was, for those who haven't played it, pause, fast forward, cover your ears. You played it, right, Chris? I don't want to.
Oh yeah, many
okay,
times.
right. So I was sitting with him. I was like, "Tell me when you get to the next part and the next part," because I wanted to be there. And when Vader came, he was like, "I know
Horror
that
show.
breathing. I know that
Yeah.
breathing." And it was funny because even as a 10-year-old, he was like, "There's no way we can beat him. We can't beat him." And that was the great thing about this game too, was they didn't even try it, because that would have been
Nope.
you were like,
Yeah.
and what was funny was, and I forgot how great it is, and it's so interesting from a Star Wars universe standpoint. And I always think about, one of the jokes I make is that, Mandalorian is, for a guy who's in the middle of Star Wars, he knows nothing about Star Wars, right?
Yeah.
Luke Skywalker shows up. He's like, "Are you a Jedi?" He's like, "Oh man, he's at the
Did you
Jedi.
watch the movies, man?
Return of the Jedi."
Yeah,
that was
that was
him.
me. That was me. Come on.
But when Cal says, "Who's he?" and my son was like, "That's Darth Vader." He literally, like, he says that out loud. And but it's kind of cool because it reminds you that it's operating in, the entire galaxy is so huge, and it
Yeah.
makes it so that you can understand how people forgot about the Jedi by the time you get to the sequel trilogy, things like that. But the trailer that we got yesterday gave us more insight, more look at the story, but less insight. Did you take anything away from did you pick up anything about where this story's going? I'm very lost at this point.
I think that I don't think that this person that was in the back of the tank
Yeah.
is anyone who dealt with the purge. I think that person is from the High Republic, who's been in some kind of a state back or stasis or something like that.
Yeah.
I think that may be the case with this person. Past that, couldn't tell you what's going on in the story.
Yeah.
And I can't wait to find out. But a few things I like, that there's new movements with when he's using the sabers,
Yep.
whether it be two-handed or using a double bladed lightsaber. Like I think that looks fantastic. One of the other cool things is now he and I'm not sure how many years it is past this story, but seeing how more in tune with the Force he is, and that, I love that they have him riding animals and things like that. And he has to use the Force to bond with the animal, that sort of thing, so that he could ride it across terrains, is fantastic.
I took note of that as well, because it's interesting. There's so much Star Wars lately, whether it's Rey in The Rise of Skywalker or Grogu in Book of Boba Fett. This whole concept of sort of communing with the animals and nature around you. And that is one thing from Jedi Fallen Order. You spend the whole game killing animals. I mean,
well, they do come out of nowhere, and they're not going to stop. You gotta.
Good point.
Sometimes you gotta chop them in half.
Fair point. And the biggest animal that you face, you do commune with. But it was cool to see him riding on the back of that that giant Pokemon bird thing, whatever it was. That was very cool.
Hawk owl. Hawk owl bat.
Yeah. And you're right. I think so interestingly too, the look of one of the characters was very Jedi, very High Republic. The guy who was holding he says something like, "Now that we have this, we're blah blah blah." I don't know what it was, but he was wearing like kind of the yellow gold Jedi things, and so that would be cool. It does feel like the High Republic is starting to sneak into the traditional Star Wars, for lack of a better term.
Yep.
Yeah.
It's about time. It needs to happen. They have to have some kind of a presence in live action or animation or games in some way, that would help bring more eyes to the printed material. So hopefully, and of course we're going to get that with
the Acolyte.
The Acolyte, yeah.
Which, speaking of the Acolyte, I'm going to try to
Se-
see if I can
Segue.
share my. Very good, Chris. That was top notch segue.
Oh,
So,
thank you, sir.
um, I one of the things that we got this week was there was some leakage of and if you are a if you want to remain pure going into the Acolyte, you may want to pause now and move ahead or whatever. But there were some pictures that appeared online um, this week from the set of the Acolyte, and I'm going to bring them up. And what's really interesting, so before we do that, what's your expectation for Acolyte? I mean, it takes place. What do you know about it? Can you tell people what we need to know
I
about Acolyte?
just I just know that it's at the tail end of the High Republic era, and if I'm not mistaken, it's the Darksiders who are the main characters, which I am so here for.
Yeah. Yep.
Absolutely. So that is all I know. That's
Yeah.
all I know going into this series.
Yep, that's about all I know. Other than a handful of the characters, it's directed by it's the showrunner actually is Leslie Headland, who
Mhm.
did Russian Doll on
Mhm.
Netflix. Which have you watched Russian Doll?
No, I know of it, but
Uh,
I haven't watched it.
yeah, I think you dig it. It's a very unique style, and again, much like Tony Gilroy's unique style coming to
Mm.
Andor, I'm excited to see what a unique perspective comes with. And it definitely feels like, and I tweeted this the other day, we're going from like no Jedi in Andor to nothing but Jedi
Yeah.
in Acolyte. Let me show a couple pictures that dropped online. These were um you know these are not official pictures. These are somewhat leaked. This is one of the first pictures of our lead Jedi. He's the is he the master or the Padawan? I think he's the
Master.
he's the master.
Yeah.
And it is, I can't think of his name, but he was from Squid
Squid
Game.
Game. Yeah. Let's see if I can find his name real quick.
And what strikes me most about this particular picture and the next couple pictures I'm going to show,
Song Gi-hun.
yes, yep. And did you watch Squid Game? You had to watch
I
Squid Game.
watched a couple episodes. I got depressed. I'm like, I can't do this.
It's depressing and stressful, which is not the best necessarily for entertainment, but it was such a great show, and he
Yeah.
was great in it. But it's so cool. And the thing, Chris, that I mentioned to you before we got on, and I'm gonna flip to another image here. Is we'll come back to her in a second. I got to see that one. Not this one. Whoops, this one here. This Wookiee.
Yeah.
The colors and the style is pure High Republic comic book.
Absolutely.
So you're closer to the comic books obviously than I am. What are your thoughts seeing this kind of content right now?
I hope that it's an older version of Buryaga, which is he's a Wookiee. I think he's a Padawan. I think he's still a Padawan. So yeah, I'm very hopeful that that's him. If not, who cares? It's a live action Wookiee Jedi, and I am on board
Yeah.
for it all the way. Not like he's like, it's, I gotta show the guns. I'm not gonna I can wear my robes, see my furry guns. So yeah, I'm very much looking forward to that. And whoever that Zabrak woman is.
Yeah, it's interesting because again, then there's the Jedi shot, but the Zabrak, yeah,
Or that could be just it's just another race with horns like a Deveronian, but definitely not Deveronian.
well,
But
it's tough to say because she has sort of pointy ears there, right?
yeah,
So it's
and hair.
right.
So that kind of almost disqualifies her for Zabrak, because I think what am I saying? That's not true.
But
Yeah.
I'm thinking Dathomir. I'm thinking this is taking place somewhere on Dathomir.
Oh no, not that. There's vegetation and it looks nice.
Well,
Dathomir is a hellscape, but maybe because I mean I would expect to see more rocks and
yeah,
less vegetation for Dathomir.
that's
Pardon
true.
me.
No, that's
Let me
that's
just
true.
adjust my nerd glasses. But
We'll change the name of this segment to actually. So, yeah. Well, Yes, Pete, it could be Dathomir, but Dathomir does not have the grassy knolls that we're seeing in these
Yes.
particular images. I believe the but and this is allegedly what's the girl's name from Logan? Daphne
Is that
Keene?
her? Yeah, I forgot her name, but I
Yeah.
thought she was amazing in Logan.
That's what people are saying, is that could be Daphne Keene from
Wow,
Logan.
cool. Sold.
Weird brown and white hair action happening. But again, keep in mind these are pictures that have leaked from the set from people probably walking from, from one part of the set to another.
Hmm.
But I think the thing that I'm excited about and curious about, again, we've said it 100 times. It's almost a running joke. In fact, it is a running joke that I am so far behind on High Republic. I haven't read the comics, but Chris, what does it mean to you as somebody who's a big fan of them to see? I mean, even if they don't touch and there's no way they can avoid it, but to see that High Republic look coming to I mean, we're used to Jedi in off white and brown. These
Yeah,
are Jedi in that golden
yeah.
yellow
Hmm.
look. What are your
Hmm.
thoughts?
I'm down to see all eras, like crossover all the different mediums. So yeah, I'm so excited to see any remnant of live action High Republic era anything. So and like I said, it's all for me, it's all about getting more eyes on the comics and the novel. So hopefully that's what this show will do.
Yep.
For people who want to learn more. And the one thing is that you probably don't have to read a whole bunch of High Republic to get into the show, but this could get you into wanting to read those books. Because I mean, that's the one beauty with Star Wars. You could jump in from anywhere
Well,
and start and go backwards or forwards or whatever, and find whatever path you find.
and it's interesting because I think, like, for example, when Solo came out,
Hmm.
and Maul showed up, it was very interesting because that was basically saying, if you haven't seen the Clone Wars, sorry, you're gonna have to figure this out. Um, but then when Ahsoka showed up in Mandalorian, they did, and Bo-Katan, they did it in such a way that it almost feels like they learned from that and said, let's introduce these characters in a way that you don't need to know the backstory, but
Hmm.
if you want to, it's there. And I think that's my hope, is that's what they're going to do with Acolyte is, hey, listen, we're coming in at the end of that story, but if you want the full story, here's
Hmm.
piles of books and comics and other content that's available. Um, so I think that they've been pretty effective in doing that. I think just what's so strange and challenging for Star Wars right now is jumping all over the timeline.
Mm.
I mean, you look at Andor, um, which takes place before Rogue One, which took place before Star Wars, which took place after Episode 3, which took place around the same time as Andor, and which took place around the same time as Rogue One. And so it's like there's like all these different, it's hard to kind of drop all these things in, but I think they're doing a pretty good job of it. I'd love to hear
Yeah.
from people who are, just sort of casual fans. Are they able to follow that?
Hmm. Like to me, it's like, oh, okay, it's there. All right, cool. Like I can differentiate very easily. Of course, we've been watching this stuff for centuries, so
Right. Right.
we're old hats with it. But yeah, because I remember I think after Last Jedi, people were like, well, where does this Solo movie
Yeah.
fit in? And they think it was a sequel to Last Jedi. I'm like, that's impossible. But
Right. Yep. Yeah, I remember people saying, Jin, is she Rey's mother? What's going on? It's like,
yeah, well, listen, every female in Star Wars was Rey's mother around that time. Everyone had that.
right.
Everyone had
Yep.
that thing going on.
Yeah.
Ula, the dancing girl from Jabba's palace. Is that Rey's mother?
That's got to be Rey's mother. It's
Gotta
totally Rey's
be.
mother.
I have a theory.
Yeah, right. Your Rey theory sucks. Yeah, so it's yeah. So but yeah, so it is an exciting time, and I love that, again, I kind of feel like, and I may be wrong, but I feel like Lucasfilm kind of lets that stuff leak just to kind of keep an eye on, and a sense of what's happening, how is the fandom reacting to it. How are they feeling about it? Again, as somebody who's not a High Republic fan, not because I dislike it, but just because I haven't had a chance to like it,
Yeah.
I'm excited. I'm really excited to kind of, if that's my entry into High Republic, that's great, and I'm happy to do it. And for people like you who've been there since day one, to be able to start to see that in live action, that, and clearly Jedi Survivor probably has a bit of that connection as well.
Yeah.
It is great to see them pulling that in and making it part of Star Wars lore.
Yeah. And I love how, like, to take it back to comics for a sec, like a lot of the writers from the first phase of the High Republic, be it the novels or the comics,
Yep.
also work on some of the modern, or I'm sorry, not modern, but Age of Empire set of comics, like Charles Soule with Star Wars and all
Yep.
that stuff. So, and he throws in High Republic stuff every now and again and mixes it in. So you see that kind of stuff with Luke and with Leia,
Mm.
and it just makes it more, it just makes it whole, so to speak. It just, really massages that into the Star Wars lore, the Star Wars mythos, and it gives you something that's very familiar with Han and Luke. I'm sorry, Luke or Leia, and just starts to make it feel lived in and feel familiar and whatnot.
It is really great that and I think that's something that Star Wars has done really well over the last couple of years, which is one of my biggest problems with Rise of Skywalker, which maybe we'll do a whole show about that one day, but it missed opportunities there. But the connections, the Star Wars has done a good job of, if you're up here, if you're a very high level, you only watch the Disney Plus shows, you've only watched the movies, you can enjoy all of it. But there's so much stuff, whether it's within the video games or in the comics or in the novels, where they throw you those things and say, see, we know you, we know you've been reading, we know you've been with us. There's enough of that to sort of reward the people who take that deep dive into the lore, for sure. Well, hey, speaking of lore, we are going to get to Willow after the break. We want to talk about the first 3 episodes of Willow, how it's connected to the original film, talk about its place in Disney Plus, what it means for Disney Plus, and just some other stuff that Chris, you've been giving some thoughts to. So we're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, it's Willow time. So feel free to join us. We'll take your calls. We'll talk about Willow. We'll talk about anything we've talked about so far. And remember, if you're a caller, you get a shill keychain. And so make sure to join us. We'll be right back after this message.
This is Clanker.
And I am MK0.
And we're here to tell you about Geek John Toys and Collectibles. What the hell is a John?
John is a slang term that is commonly used in the eastern United States city of Philadelphia, meaning virtually anything.
Ah, so nerdy stuff then.
I would assume so. Please continue.
Right. Geek John Toys and Collectibles is your pop culture destination for all the plastic crap you're addicted to. From action figures to comic books, from Funko Pops to high-end merch, they have the stuff from all the major and indie companies alike. Check out their eBay store to see their wide range of items.
Find them on their eBay store at ebay.com/USR/GeekJohnOutpost or email them at geekjohnoutpost@gmail.com.
Geek John, these are the Johns you're looking for. Oh my maker, I can't believe they made me say that.
We are back. Hey, listen, if you are looking for specific gifts for, look, I was going to say for somebody else. Let's face it. If you're watching this, you're probably looking for some collectibles. Check out Geek John and check out the eBay store. The stuff that's on there, like I'm worried because I'm just going to start buying stuff, and I can't do that.
Well, I've looked at it. And let me tell you, there are Star Wars statues up there.
Yeah,
there's the Sabine Wren, Gentle Giant Studios mini bust, Obi-Wan Kenobi, Clone Wars animated mini bust. There's full lines of the Black Series figures and the Vintage Collection figures and Star Wars droids figures on there.
So, whoa, all right.
And if you're an anime nerd, there's some Fist of the North Star stuff up there, some Naruto stuff up there. I've looked at it once or twice.
All right.
What they have.
Well, yeah. Well, hey, if you're looking, I was going to say, if you're looking for gifts, it's a good place to go. But let's face it, buy it for yourself. Go
Good for
there,
yourself. Yeah.
find the stuff you're looking for, and have some fun. Well, welcome back. We are, we're gonna try not to die of this cough here. Join us in the call. We'll gladly take your calls. But welcome back. We are going to talk now a little bit about the latest Lucasfilm series on Disney Plus. It's interesting. You think about Willow from, what was it, 1988? Was it?
Yeah.
1988. The film came out. It starred Warwick Davis. It starred Val Kilmer, a couple other people who are actually back. And it was a fun movie. It is dated. You look at something like even Dark Crystal, which of course, it's Muppets or puppets from the Muppet Studios.
Super
And
Muppets.
and it still works.
Yeah.
I do feel like Willow, as the film Willow, it definitely feels like 1988, but the story is still fantastic.
Yeah.
But how do you feel about seeing Willow back in this format now?
I'm very happy. I wasn't like this diehard Willow fan, but I was definitely a fan, and I saw it a few times in the theater, and many more times on VHS or on cable or something like that.
Yeah.
Loved it. I remember when it first came out, and it's from Lucasfilm, and I was like, oh, it's a new Star Wars movie. It's just Star Wars in another world or something like that. When you see characters, like a lot of the people sort of do, I mean, that's just archetypes kind of stuff. And a lot of people do kind of match up with what you've seen in Star Wars. Like I think it's General Kale. The guy was like all in black, the big guy with the the skull mask. I'm like, oh, that's their Vader. Like, oh, that's cool.
Yeah.
And Mad Mardigan is pretty much Luke Solo or Han Skywalker. Take your pick. And oh man, what was the other princess's name?
Oh,
not the princess, but Bath Morta's daughter. I keep forgetting her name. Oh, Bath Morta's definitely Palpatine. Like it was a very fun story, and very what's the word I'm looking for? Innocent.
Yep.
It's a very innocent story, and it's one of the things I love about this series is that it carries over. Yeah. And there were parts where like you could tell there was some impending violence coming.
Yep.
And then I was like, oh, here we go. It's going like I'm trained to think it's going to get gratuitous like Game of Thrones.
Yep.
Or even Lord of the Rings. And like, no, it's implied. And like this is still it's that same fantasy realm.
Yep.
Still got the swords and all that kind of stuff, but it's for everyone to watch. Yeah. And I'm so glad that there are stories like that for everyone to watch.
Well, I think saying it's for everyone is a really good way to put it. And it's interesting to me because I think I might have tweeted about this earlier this week. Andor, my son watched the first episode, and I think he watched the last One Way Out episode.
Mm-hmm.
And that was it. And he never asked me about it again. He never was like, hey, we have to watch it. However, Willow, he on Tuesday night, he was like, what's today? Say Tuesday? That means New Willow is tomorrow, right? I was like, yep. And he's like, we have to watch it. And he's into it, and he's that 10-year-old audience. And he's even gone so far as to say, we have to watch the movie again. We have to watch it and see where it's connected. And, not only did we watch episode 3 together the other night, he wanted to watch episode 2 again before episode 3. So it definitely captures that, in 1988, we were younger and we were intrigued by the whole fantasy realm. And they've captured, and I think that's really important right now because of the fact that Andor was so, I hate to say adult oriented, but certainly a more serious story.
Yeah.
Less sort of swashbuckly, adventure-y kind of tale.
Yeah.
But Andor or Willow is recapturing that audience right now for sure.
Yeah, absolutely.
But you had some very specific thoughts on the connection to other Lucasfilm types of.
Yeah. And even though like when the movie, like I said, when the movie first came out and I saw the Lucasfilm pop up and I was like, it's a Star Wars movie. And then like when it came out, it came out and watched, I'm like, all right, maybe not. But I still held on to it could be. It could be. And then, as the years goes by, I find there are other people that think the same thing.
Yep.
And there was this one dude that I think it was like 2005, 2006. I read this guy's whole thing, and he seamlessly put Willow in the Star Wars universe, and it's very easy to do.
Yeah.
But there were a couple things that were said in the second episode
Yes.
where I was like, oh, they're doing it. Oh, they're gonna do it. When Willow says to, and I'm sorry if I'm spoiling this for anyone.
Yeah.
When he's talking to Elora Danan, like grown up Elora, and he's talking about magic and saying that it's an energy that flows through all living things.
Yeah.
I was Leonardo DiCaprio meme. I was like, oh, they're doing it. They're doing it. And then not a minute later, Matt Mardigan's Kit, I think is her name.
Yep. Yep.
She says, well, when's she going to start shooting lightning out of her fingers? I was like, oh, they're doing it again. Look, I would not be surprised, and I would be so happy if after whatever happens this season, if this is a one-off thing where it's only going to be this one series that they're doing, this one season, that they pan up into the sky, and maybe we think that's a shooting star or a meteor that's about to hit the planet, and then that meteor slows down. It lands, and Yoda comes out, maybe sees, the world or something like that, and can see that this magic is going on, and maybe just maybe he decides, I'm going to make sure this planet's left alone so they can do their thing. Maybe that planet, if this is maybe Willow's world is in the unknown region somewhere, or like very tip of the outer rim that no one can get to. Kind of like Exegol. But I think that would be fantastic. Or if they pan out from the planet. I've been thinking about this. If they pan out from the planet and go into space, you see the planet and like all these other planets zip by, then boom, you see like not the Death Star, but maybe you see a Starlight Beacon. Because I think that if anything, that it is in the High Republic era, which would be fantastic because Yoda did a lot of traveling to it's like all these different worlds back then. Yeah. So that could be like one of his outings, and he finds this planet. That'd be fantastic.
I'll buy into it and accept it if they do it like that. If they keep it separate, like I don't want to see Willow fighting stormtroopers, right? I don't want
just to know that it's in that universe.
Yeah, because
would be awesome.
There is zero denying that the way Willow explained magic to Elora Danan, there's no denying it was describing the Force.
Yes,
right. It's we use this energy to move things and change their form and things like that. It was a Force lesson.
Yeah. Like Warwick Davis did everything but go.
Right. Look at the camera with
yeah. And they even did it in the movie because I like you. I watched the movie the other day because it's been so long. I just went into the series not blind, but I went to the series without watching the movie for a good decade or two.
Yeah.
So I did that, and I'm like, oh man, they did it here. Like Bav Morta sort of went into it a little bit. So yeah,
yeah. So yeah, I am always very nervous about crossovers. Like I always feel like you're gonna
do not want a Marvel Star Wars cross.
Right. Yeah, I see that on Twitter every now and then. There's somebody who I really like who's like, I really want to see that. No, we don't want that connection. We don't want to see it.
Plus Darth Vader beats them all anyways.
And just because Disney owns them, they can all be in the same park, but they don't have to be in the same universe.
Right.
That said, I came into this conversation ready to fight you on it and disagree with you. But I think if they do it subtly like that, to just say this is all part of that universe, but just as long as we don't see, Mad Mardigan fighting the Emperor or just let it be and again, without knowing the High Republic. And if Yoda was doing all that exploring, maybe he finds it and finds a way to protect it and just leave that world out there. Because there's no way that every world in the galaxy far, far away has gotten into the Star Wars conflict, right?
Absolutely.
I mean, it's a big galaxy. So
Yeah, and the way that they're talking about magic in there, it's just like the Night Sisters. The way that they
Yep.
use the Force, along with some of their, whatever else they're doing, and make it, their own sort of magic. So why
Yeah.
not?
well,
Why not?
I think you're right. I think the Night Sisters with the Icor and the way
Mhm.
they looked at it, it's definitely, you can definitely use that force, that energy for something different and let it exist. But
Yep.
I think you're right there.
Yeah.
No, and it's a great show as well. It's watchable. It's I was when my son wanted to watch it. Look, I haven't watched many of the. That's not entirely true. I have watched just about every Andor episode, maybe two to four times each.
Mm,
Just I don't know why.
mm.
Um,
Why not?
yeah, that's true. But when my son wanted to watch episode 2 again, I was like, really? And then I watched it. I was like, no, that was really good. I really enjoyed it.
Yeah.
I have to say, couple things about the cast. It's perfect. Borman is somebody posted on Twitter the other day, which I thought was the best explanation. I don't know if you ever played D&D, Chris, but somebody said this show represents playing Dungeons and Dragons
Absolutely.
perfectly. I mean, and it is. It's the big guy, the magician, the thief, it's so well done. But my
Hmm.
favorite part of the entire show is is Kit, Mad Mardigan's daughter. And
Yeah.
not so much just because the character, which is amazing, and some of the things we learned about her this week, but the way that she has captured everything about Val Kilmer and the way he portrayed Mad Mardigan in
Hmm.
Willow, she's got that. And
Absolutely.
it's so fun to watch. Like it's like literally, like you'll meet a friend of yours kid and you'll be like, oh my god, your kid is you.
Yeah.
And she has done that so well,
Absolutely.
and it sucks you into the show so much.
And I loved how watching the movie again. Like I just watched it Thursday night. I
Hmm.
watched it, or Thursday morning, whichever. Um, and then like seeing some names pop out. Like her brother's name is Eric,
Right.
which is the name of one of the other knights who in the movie who knew Matt Mardigan and
Right.
died fighting Kale. Uh, and that was it. That was the name. I was like, oh, they named him
Yeah.
after. I was like, oh, that's so cool because I forgot a lot of the names from the movie, but that was really cool. I'll tell you one thing that did kind of not rub me the wrong way, but it took me a second to be like, okay, okay, all right. Two things actually. One is their very common vernacular. They're
Yeah.
very modern vernacular, I
Yep.
should say. It took me a minute to get used to because I'm like, okay, they're just speaking. They're not trying to do any kind of like fantasy world diction
Right.
with their or vernacular or anything like that, which I
Which is
thought
kind of
was
a trope in some of the D&D type shows lately,
yeah.
like Vox Machina. I don't know if you watch that on Amazon.
I don't.
Uh,
My roommate does. Yeah, he
uh,
watches that a lot.
I love that show. But again, it's like throwing in some current kind of but yeah, and it can be jarring, especially when you're in the middle of this world for sure. Yeah.
Right. And then the other thing, but I like it, is how they end an episode and goes into like a modern rendition of like Enter Sandman.
Yeah. Yep.
Was the third episode, and I was like, oh, oh, really Metallica. I'm like, oh, okay. I'm like, okay,
Yeah.
all right, you know.
Yep.
And what I'm seeing from that is it's a Lucasfilm show,
Yep.
drips with Lucasfilm-ish isms. Um, but the end of the show seems like a Marvel show,
Yeah. Yep.
you know. So it got like that nice little balance between the two. I'm like, all right, you got me.
That
Right, I'm in.
that's a great point. I hadn't thought about that, but you're right. I mean, the fact that they use sort of illustrated scenes, hand drawn looking versions of scenes, that's a very Marvel TV thing to do.
Mhm.
Um, yeah, no, I love it. I think they're doing great. And what is it? It's 8 parts, right? I think.
I think it's 8 episodes. Yeah.
Yeah. So we're not even halfway through, and
Yeah.
It's so good. It's so much
And,
fun. So
and this third episode in particular was probably the best one.
yeah, yep. And it's gonna get better because they're going to what is that Knockmore? Is that how you say it? Oof. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's
Try not to say Mordor, something like that.
yeah.
But yeah, and like I'm a Ted Lasso fan, big
Yep.
big,
Oh
big
yeah.
Ted Lasso
Yep.
fan, and I keep forgetting her name, and I feel like a fool for this one, but you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah, she was
But
Rebecca
she was
in
one
the in Ted Lasso.
Yeah, but she's one of the she's out there with her either sister or friend or partner, and yeah, doing their thing. The wardrobe, which just like Andor, I love Andor for incorporating hoodies into Star Wars wardrobe. I love it. Denim seems to be
Oh yeah.
the fabric of choice.
Yep. Bearded
and
Willow
Tira
is wearing
Celine.
denim.
Yeah.
Yep. But I will say, and again, so the modern vernacular is what pulled you out. You know what pulled me out was the little eyelets in her hat. I know that's a really weird thing. The little metal eyelets in her hat. It's a very in whatever the woman from
Rebecca.
Rebecca
Yeah.
from Ted Lasso said. But it didn't kill it. And honestly, I feel like that's just what this world is. It's like it's almost like in a way. Did you read Dark Tower by Stephen King?
I've read some of the
Yeah,
I've read some of the comic.
Okay,
For it,
all right. But
yeah.
it was a mix of worlds, and I think that's what I mean. Honestly, like those two women were kind of like Old West cowboys in a way, and it worked. It just
out there doing their own thing, frontiersmen, so to speak.
Yep. And it's a mix, and it's very, very well done. But yeah, no, I'm excited, and I'm looking forward to where it goes from here. But speaking of where it goes, we actually have a caller who wants to join us. I'm going to bring him in right now.
Go for Papa Palpatine.
You have a collect call from
Darth Vader.
I gotta take this. Hold on.
Yeah,
JD.
How's it going, JD?
How's it going, fellas?
How you doing, sir?
Better now. How's it going?
I'm recovering at this point.
Recovering.
I just got over some of the badness that's going around with sickness and stuff like that. So
I'm fighting it. I'm fighting it right now.
Darth Cavidius, or was it just a regular?
No, it was just a sinus infection.
It
went from here to here, all the way to here.
Not fun. Not fun.
No, not fun at all. So I was actually out of work at the beginning of the week.
Well, we're glad you're healthy enough to be having a drink with us on a Friday night, talking about, I don't know, we talked about a bunch of different stuff tonight. What do you, what caught your attention? What did you want to chat with us about tonight?
I honestly, I share Chris's enthusiasm with the High Republic stuff coming live action. I think it's a great thing. I've actually read through almost all the first phase. I got to finish the third book, but I read all of the 2 books. I read Into Darkness, and I need to finish the third one, Falling Star, and then I want to start getting into
the comics,
the second phase. And I'm not a reader, so I'm not a reader, but I've really enjoyed the series. I thought it was really good. I've loved what they've done with that.
Have you thought about reading the comics for the High Republic? They're amazing.
Are they?
They fit in really well.
I'm not a huge comic book fan either. I like comic books, but I just don't. It's just so much medium to get into that it's been hard to just keep them with the books. Like I said, not being a reader.
I hear that.
You're offending Chris.
It's okay. Listen. Everyone, you'll all of you will come around one day. You'll see. We'll see.
We were texting last night, Chris, Nick, and I, and Chris was like, "One day, you'll thank me. You'll thank me for all this.
You'll see."
So, have you seen the Acolyte leaked pictures, JD?
Yes, and I didn't even think of Baraga until Chris said something, and I was like, yes. That would be great to
That'd be
see him.
cool.
That would be awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, it'd be great to see that character. See him a live action Wookiee Jedi would be most interesting.
Now, how far before Phantom Menace does High Republic take place?
200 years.
Okay,
200 years.
And this is about 100 years. They said right before, or no? Is it closer than that? It's about 100 years before
100.
Phantom Menace. Yeah.
100 years.
So Wookiees live a couple hundred years, right? So it certainly could be.
Few.
Certainly
Yeah.
could be.
Certainly.
Well, let's in Solo, Chewbacca was, what is it, 180?
Yeah.
110? No.
No, I think it was like 180.
Yeah, 180, 190. You're right.
Yeah, you're 180 years old. Wow, you look great.
You look great.
Yeah. So I mean, they live a long time, so you never know.
It would totally make sense. It would
Yeah.
totally make sense. I like I was saying before, I am not a huge High Republic fan, but to see those pictures and to see to really kind of see the Jedi in their prime, right? Because I think that was the promise of Phantom Menace, of the prequels, was that we were going to see the Jedi in their prime. And honestly, if you think about it, we saw them at the end, right?
Yeah.
And if we're going to go
Bitter
into a
end.
story to see the Jedi doing what the legendary Jedi were up to, I think that's really cool. I think it'll be very exciting to see.
Absolutely.
For sure.
Yeah, absolutely.
Have you been watching Willow at all, JD?
I watched the original movie as a kid when it came out. You know, I've seen it, but I have not watched the new series yet.
Uh-huh.
I haven't had time to sit down and watch it yet. So I know I'm terrible and
No.
I'm like, yeah, I need to sit down and watch this show because I remember the original. I remember Mad Mardigan. I remember Eric, you know, the guy that didn't like him at first, that wouldn't fight with him because he was a traitor. And you know, I remember the scenes of him sitting in the stocks waiting to die, and you know, he wouldn't let him out because he didn't have any loyalty. And
Yeah.
And just Val Kilmer's performance in that was just outstanding.
God, he was so good.
Yeah,
he actually turns out to be just a wonderful, you know, an outstanding, the greatest swordsman that ever lived. And my favorite part of Willow was never the end battle. It was the part where they were stuck in the castle and he had to fight all of them by himself.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And took a lot of them out and took a dragon out by himself. I'm going,
yeah.
I'm here for it.
The George Lucas is so committed to the classic storytelling tropes that he couldn't help himself with Willow. I mean, Willow is it's Star Wars in that fantasy realm. It's that, you know, the characters. It's Mad Mardigan is he's Skywalker a bit, but he's also he's a bit more solo in that. He's
Han Skywalker for sure.
Yep.
Yeah.
And Willow's kind of Obi-Wan Skywalker or Yoda Skywalker, right? In that he was aware of it. And that's what's so interesting about the series now. And again, very similar to Last Jedi, which I'm sure will piss a bunch of people off. But you know, the Willow we see in the series is much more Luke Skywalker Last Jedi.
Yep.
In that he's failed. He's not become what he expected to. And he's dealing with that. And I think that's a really cool thing. And I think that's great for those of us, the three of us on the screen right now, who have the experience. And, you know, when you're 15, 20, 12 years old, you expect that the hero is going to grow up and be a hero forever. And what we see with Luke in Last Jedi, what we see with Willow in the series is it doesn't always go the way it's planned. And if you look at life, it does, you know, it doesn't go the way you have it on paper. And that's cool. That's interesting.
That's something I've always defended about The Last Jedi and Luke's appearance. You know, you can be the baddest dude in the galaxy. You can be the best hero. But what would be the one thing that would drag a hero down and make a hero do what Luke did in The Last Jedi? And that's if you had a family member that you knew was potentially could become evil or could potentially become a bad guy and do so many bad things, and you may or may not be responsible for that. I mean, that would bring anybody down.
100%.
That close, they're close to your heart. And that's something the Jedi never dealt with. They never actually dealt with teaching family members or teaching people that were potentially their kids or their siblings' kids because they didn't have siblings, they didn't have relationships, they didn't have marriages. That's something the Jedi never dealt with, and he was never trained to deal with that. And that is just something that his training could not prepare him for. And for people to go, "Oh, that's terrible. I don't understand. That's not my Luke Skywalker." Man, I've never been more connected to Luke Skywalker.
Absolutely. Like it had been 32 years since Return of the Jedi. He's not going to be the same person he was back then. There's no way. Like my dad passed in 2018. I am not the same person that I was since my dad passed.
Yep.
I'm not the same person I was since March 2020. No one is.
Right.
Things happen and they change you.
Yep.
Some things are gradual, some things, happen just like that. So yeah, I Luke being who he was in Last Jedi did not bother me. I was like, oh well, yeah.
It made sense. Yep.
But they let Han not grow up,
Right.
So you had one.
Yep. And it's interesting to see what happens when that character doesn't grow up, right? Life doesn't go the way he expects it. So
nope.
I love the phrase. The people, there's somebody who said they knew me 10 years ago and they knew something about me they didn't like. I'm like, well, they don't know me now because the person I was 10 years ago and the person I am now is a completely different person because we grow, change, we get knowledge, we experience emotions, we go throughout changes in our lives that make us different people.
Right.
And you can only imagine what's such a tragic event, whether it be Willow's life, whether it be, Luke Skywalker's life, any character in cinema, and it could be anything. And that connects more to us today because of the pandemic and because of the changes that have been going on, because of the people that are, we're trying to change the old ways and the old thoughts and the old system of doing things to change it to now. People have to change. People have to grow. People have to gain knowledge and they have to look at things rationally. And it's going to change who you are. It's going to change your personality. And to say that it doesn't happen to movie characters or it's impossible to happen to them is a complete cop-out, in my opinion.
Yep. Totally agree with that. Totally agree. Well, JD, thank you so much for hanging out with us, man. I'm going to get you at your shill keychain. I have your address. I know where you live. It'll go. Yes. Perfect. And and when you get your next Disney check, you can you can buy another shirt or
JD,
something.
they've got direct deposit now. So they want you to send it in the mail. Yeah, I got mine earlier today. Yeah.
Then why have they not told me about this yet?
Yeah, there was a newsletter that went out, but I'm not. Check your email. It may be there now.
Maybe it's in spam. Might have gone in spam.
Maybe it's in the spam folder.
Let's move this along.
Awesome. Well, JD, thank you so much for joining us. Hopefully, we'll see you next week. And if we don't, have a great holiday, and may the force be with you, my friend.
Always, fellas.
Godspeed, rebels.
Always great to hear from JD. Always great
Absolutely.
from all of our friends who join us on a weekly basis. We see you in the chat. We know, hey, some days, maybe your hair's not ready. Maybe your makeup's not ready. You don't want to be on camera with us. We get it. We're fine with that. We're not offended. But we are coming to the end of the show. Chris, what's going on with the Bro Axiom Network over the next week or so?
Well, let's see. We're recording a new episode of Nice Guys podcast this weekend, which will go out sometime around Christmas. We're going to be talking about Batman. Which one is it? What's it called again? The second one. Batman Returns.
Batman Returns.
Yeah.
Hopefully YouTube won't take it down on you this time.
Yeah. Because we had a great conversation on Running Scared, and they killed it because we used 4 seconds of music. YouTube.
Oh, YouTube.
Let's see what else. We have a couple new comics coming out next week. Also, the War of the Bounty Hunters Omnibus came out. Every issue, every tie-in issue, and all that in one huge hardcover. I love it. Mwah. That comes out
I'll
next
get.
week.
That I'll get. That comes out next week?
Yeah.
All right. See, now maybe that's a Christmas gift for my son.
There
Maybe I
you
got to
go.
pick that up. There we
There
go.
you go.
See?
Let's see what else we got going on. I did an interview yesterday with my favorite content creators outside of course, all of us, but my favorite content creators, which is the Aeronauts, and they do a Star Wars. They do a whole bunch of stuff. They do very much music oriented. They do Star Wars parodies. They do a lot of overdubs. I've done voices for this stuff in the past. and can't wait to do more. They just did the if you've seen it, they're the guys that do the Andor 1975 TV theme song. If you've seen that, that's
so
them.
good, so
And
good.
they nailed it. And they've got more coming out. Like and I don't want to say just yet what they're doing. They won't keep that under wraps for them. But I did an interview with them, did a conversation with them yesterday, and it's going to be in 2 parts. First part comes out on Monday, and then there's another part that's going to be, because we just kind of like went kind of off the rails a little bit, and we're talking just our thoughts on movies and things like that. So
Awesome.
So we're going to do that as well. I think Star Bros have an episode coming out next week, and of course Sunday night Shooting the Poodoo.
Yes, sir.
Where they're going to be talking Willow and things like that with our new member,
Yes.
Mark Perez. So happy to have him on board. He really does fit in with the crew, and he's so awesome. I'm glad that he's gonna be around, because I'm gonna be taking a little bit of time off from the show just to kind of do my own thing, but not do my own thing, but just have one less thing to do. And I'm glad he's gonna be there to fill in that spot. So
Excellent. Well, good. Cool. And on Around the Galaxy this Thursday, we're going to have Jordan Hembrow. And then next week, the week after Thursday, Podcast of Wheels has Darth Chaco, who has been known to join us here on occasion on Streaming Star Wars. But that's
would love to talk with him sometime.
Oh, he's a great guy.
Yeah.
He's very cool, fun guy. We'll have to, maybe we'll have him on a Streaming Star Wars, and ideally, hopefully next week will be possibly our last Streaming Star Wars of 2022. Chris, if you're down with it, I'd love to do sort of a year in review in the Star Wars world. I think that'd be a lot of fun. We may be joined once again by James from Rebel Scum podcast. He was a lot of fun a couple weeks ago, joined us. He may be back for that. He reached out to me and he said, "Hey, I'm going to be doing a year in review," and I said, "That's what we're gonna do, so let's do a crossover." So
Nice.
we'll be joined by him because Nick is going to be out gallivanting and being full of holiday cheer once again next week. So
Bah humbug.
bah humbug. But Chris, this has been a lot of fun. Thank you so much for hanging out with us. Those of you who are watching and listening, thanks for hanging out. Make sure to like, subscribe, and share. And Chris, may the force be with you
Always.
Just one more round, friend, then homeward bound, friend. Don't forget me in your dreams. Just one more song, friend, and then so long, friend. The nights get shorter, it seems. Just one more rhyme, friend. Yes, it's a crime, friend. But you know time, friend. Time can fly. So it's good night, friend. Good night, but not goodbye.